excited about this opportunity. We've still got a week of preparation, thank goodness. It looks like for now, at least, we're going to have pretty good weather, which is, we always credit Kyle Niblett for getting that done for us. I think our arms are in as good a shape as they've been in since I've been at Mississippi State so far. You know, we had 22 guys throw at least an inning, and 20 of them have thrown a baseball 90 or better. I think we've had 8 guys throw a ball 93 or better. I think we've had 4 guys throw a ball 95 or better. So velocity's not everything, but it's really an indication of the healthier arms. And so I think we're pretty healthy from that standpoint. We have a few positional players that are injured right now, and we're waiting to see what their status is going to be. John Holland has a little back issue that's kept him out for the last couple of weeks. Brent Rooker has a little ankle sprain, but we expect him to be fully recovered by the time next Friday arrives. So I think our kids are excited. I think they're motivated. I think they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and I think they're ready to play against somebody besides themselves right now.
Is the way you've set up these first couple of weekends kind of an indication how you plan to go to starting pitching first weekend?
Yeah, you know, when you look at it, we're going to play 5 games in 5 days to start the season, and we did that on purpose because we wanted to use as many of our arms as possible. So it wouldn't surprise me if we get 5 games into it, if we use 12, 13, 14 arms, and that's something we need to do because we need to find out what these kids can do, and several of these kids are going to be freshmen. So, you know, we're really looking forward to the opportunity to get them out there and get some innings under the belt and see how they perform in real game conditions.
With Collins moving to third, how has that opened up things at catcher?
Well, certainly, you know, Marrero is a talented player, and he's going to be a significant part of our success this year. We're putting a lot on a freshman who's never played in the Southeastern Conference. Collins will still be available to catch as well, and Lovelady is somebody who has really come along and will be able to contribute behind the plate. Also, Jack Kruger is a guy who had arm surgery in November. When his arm comes back, and we think it will, that'll give us some depth there too. I think Jack is, you know, one of the top 2 or 3 hitters on our entire ball club. So finding him a spot, whether it's behind the plate or in the outfield or first base, is going to be important as well. So I think the catcher position, when we get 100% healthy back there, I think it's going to be one of the strengths of our ball club.
Very impressed with how Nate Lowe is taking first base.
Yeah, Nate's a guy, you know, what's interesting is when you bring in a junior college player, so many times folks say, well, they've never played at the Division I level. Well, Nate's already played at the Division I level, and so has Jack Kruger. Both those guys have played Division I baseball before they went to junior college. So both of those guys bring a lot of maturity, and yeah, I think Nate's somebody who's has the potential to really anchor a middle spot in our order with some physicality and a great knowledge of the strike zone.
You talked about Marrero. What is it about him that provides you the confidence that as a true freshman he can come in and produce?
Well, I just think he's a baseball player. You know, when you start, a lot of times we tend to measure guys in their tools, how fast they run, you know, arm strength and all those things, and they're important. But baseball knowledge is important too, and I just think he has a very high baseball IQ. I think he's somebody that really understands the game. I think he makes decisions, but you know he is a freshman and he's going to make mistakes, and we're going to have to live with that. But I think the byproduct of that is going to be that he is going to be a fabulous player, and I think he'll be better as a player at the end of the year than he is at the beginning.
Who are the guys that are kind of battling for that rotation spot, and what do you like about those guys? Well,
Dakota Hudson went out yesterday and pitched very, very well. We're very pleased with him. Daniel Brown pitched well also. I would say those are probably our 2 best candidates to go out there on Friday next week. Austin Sexton will have a start. We don't know if it'll be Saturday or Sunday, or maybe even Friday. But he will have a start for sure. And there's several other guys. Tatum is a guy who will get a chance to start for sure. And from there we're going to have to just see who pitches the best among our younger guys.
Is Zach Houston a guy you can see kind of taking over that closer role down the stretch?
You know, Zach, I think Zach's much more comfortable in the starting role for now. I think he is open to help our ball club in any capacity, but you know, when you break him down, he might be throwing better than anybody on our whole team. So yeah, I mean, is he a starter on Saturday or Sunday, or do we start on Tuesday? we have some options. Does he help us close out the game on Friday? That's a possibility as well. But he has really benefited from Wes Johnson. I think Wes is really connected with him, and he's a power arm. And guys, he's thrown a couple of balls 98 miles an hour already this spring.
How have Billingsley and Gentry come back from their injuries last year?
I think Billingsley is right where we want him to be. I think if Billingsley it was at this stage a year ago, I think we would have had a different year. I think he would have made a difference in 7 to 10 ball games for us. I think he's very healthy. I think his breaking ball is really good, and I think he finally feels healthy for the first time at Mississippi State. Miles Gentry is just fighting his tail off to get his arm back to where it was. It hasn't even been a year since his surgery that he's had. I know he wants to be out there. That'll probably be a decision we'll have to make on Wednesday or Thursday as to what his future will be on our ball club, just to see, what his health is like.
Offensively, do you find it tough maybe this year to fill out the lineup card because you just got so many options?
Yeah, we do have options, and we have some young guys who've come on and done well. I think really the way it's been set up and the way we've been able to evaluate, it will be a difficult decision because kids, there's so much competition. You just feel it every time the kids get on the field. There are kids who are pressing too hard. There are kids who can accept the pressure of competing for a job, and they're doing very, very well. So, I think we're going to get an opportunity to play a lot of people. That's why I really like the 4-game weekend series to start out. It forces me to play more people than you're comfortable playing out of necessity, and I think it'll help our ball club in the long run.
You still like Jacob Robson as a leadoff type guy?
Yeah, Jacob's done very well. He had a great summer in the Cape. He had a really nice year for us a year ago. I think he's a prospect. He's a great runner. He's as athletic a player maybe in the entire Southeastern Conference. Does he lead off? Is he a 2-hole guy? Does he hit at the bottom to give you another lead off at the bottom? You just don't know at this point in time. But there's no question for us to be as good as we need to be. Jacob Robson needs to be right in the middle of what we're trying to do.
How do you think?
General question, but what would you say are the biggest strengths of this club?
I think the pitching depth. I think the situational pitching depth. I think the nature of our starting 5 guys right now who are going to compete for those 3 weekend spots. If all those guys stay healthy, I think it's tremendously competitive, and I think we have as good arms 1 through 22 as there is in the country. And you throw a Reed Humphreys in there. Last night was 92, 93 with an 80-mile-an-hour slider. You throw him in the mix. Jake Mangum, who plays the outfield for us and is also pitched. Then I think it's a pretty good pitching staff. And the reason why that's so important to us is we play in a defensive-oriented pitching ballpark. We're going to play 34 home games, and quite frankly, when you can make folks swing and miss, it changes the nature of every other part of your program. When you can make people swing and miss in inter-squad games, when you can add velocity to the mix with great breaking balls, what are you doing for your offense? You're making your offense a lot better when they're competing against each other in the fall and in the early portion of the spring. So I think there's a huge advantage to having great pitching staffs, and I think this has potential to be one of our better pitching staffs that we've ever had here.
Richard Reed, how's he matured as a player there?
Reed Humphreys it's amazing. He spoke to our club yesterday, and that's something that we do prior to the season. Each one of our returning guys gets the opportunity to speak, and I was so impressed with the speech that he gave to our players. He talked about the maturation process for him personally. He was trying to help some of the younger guys who had never experienced any of this, and really, really proud of Reed. I think he's got both feet on the ground, and I think he's poised to have a really good year for us, both on the mound and as a positional player for us.
With the injury to Holland, do you see Stovall getting some early time at second base?
Yeah, I can totally see Stovall getting that opportunity. Certainly Luke Alexander is a guy, who is going to get opportunities as well. With Collins now being an infielder, that gives us some flexibility too. Ridley's played well early on here, so and Reed Humphreys has played some third base to give us some flexibility as well. So, I think that there's going to be a lot of competition here, but there's no doubt in my mind that Stovall and Luke Alexander are going to be great. I mean, when you look at those 2 guys being the future of our program, they're going to be great players.
You mentioned the expectations you put on Eli Marrero. What specifically does he do very well?
there's not much that he doesn't do well, but he's going to have to learn the speed of the game at the highest levels of Division I. You know, I don't know if he's ever caught the kind of arms that he's catching right now over and over and over again. You know, when you play a high level in amateur baseball, even in South Florida, you're catching those great arms every once in a while. He's catching a great arm every single day, and you can get a little bit beaten up. So, but I think he's somebody who can handle it. I think he's somebody who can really hit. I'm not convinced that Eli Marrero is not one of our 2 or 3 best hitters on our ball club as well. He's a great base runner. He has great instincts for the game. He's a very aggressive young man. Sometimes he's a little bit too aggressive, but you definitely want to pull back the reins on somebody and not have to worry about them competing too hard every day.
What type of role do you see Humphreys having in the bullpen?
Yeah, I think Reed is somebody that can be a one-inning save guy. He's got a really good slider. He's got a great arm, and you know, we waited for his arm to come back for 3 years. His senior year of high school, he really couldn't throw, and then his first 2 years here, his arm was just coming back, and now his arm is where he wants it to be. I think he's mature enough to understand how to take care of it. And certainly Coach Johnson has just done a fabulous job of helping him manage his arm on a daily basis, which is really important.
Speaking of Coach Johnson, what has that transition been like to him? How have the guys responded to him so far?
I think our kids have responded very well. I think they really bought in. How can you not buy into what Wes is doing? I mean, almost every one of our guys have increased in velocity instantaneously. So he's done a great job. Our kids have had the benefit in the last 6 months of working with 2 of the best pitching coaches, in my opinion, in the entire country. You know, Butch Thompson and now Wes. So I think all of them feel privileged to have had that experience, and I think they're excited. You know, both of those coaches, I've said this in many interviews, both those coaches, Coach Thompson and Coach Johnson, they're different in the way they go about it, but they're both very, very good coaches, and I think our kids have benefited from both of them.
You mentioned the swing and miss stuff of the pitching staff. How important was that for the team after what happened last year, the strikeout ratio down with the new ball and stuff? How important was it to get that swing and miss stuff?
Well, it was an absolute must for us. The teams in Omaha, Nebraska are the ones that can make people swing and miss when it matters. Those are the teams that can defend at the highest level. You know, if you look at, everybody loves power and everybody loves to see a ball jump out of the ballpark, but if you say something like 35 to 40 to 45 home runs is a great year now in college baseball, you're talking about something that doesn't even statistically happen every game in all of college baseball. What does happen every single game is a guy going out on the mound being able to prevent somebody from either putting it in play or B, creating hard contact. And so that is an absolute must for our ball club in every way. And I think, you know, real credit to Coach Mengione and Coach Thompson and Coach Johnson for, you know, helping us put all this into play and getting the right people to allow us to have one of the premier pitching staffs in the country. Now, having said all of that, there are very few of these arms that have gone out and done it at the Division I level, and our kids are fully aware of that. They're aware that they haven't gone out and done it yet, but we like what we see. We're very optimistic about it, and I think there's no reason that these kids can't go out and perform at the highest level.
You mentioned that this team sort of has a chip on their shoulder this year after last year. Have you noticed sort of maybe an extra pep in the step this year with the guys going into this year?
There's no question our kids have a chip on their shoulder. In fact, literally, they have a chip on their shoulder, and they know what that means. But I think it's important. Every one of our returning guys talks about what they went through a year ago, how disappointing it was to them, how disappointing it was to our fan base. You know, these kids play in a different age where through social media and everything else, especially in a high-profile program like ours, they have to deal with a lot. If they're not successful, they find out about it. So I think they feel like they have a lot to prove, and I'm excited about seeing them do it on the field.
You mentioned the staff that hasn't, pitched in the Division I level yet, plus add a true freshman catcher. What kind of growing pains do you envision happening maybe in the first couple months?
There will be some growing pains, but it won't be from a lack of effort. It won't be from a lack of talent. And again, with the catching situation, I feel like with Collins chipping in a little bit there, with a Lovelady chipping in a little bit there, with Jack Kruger chipping in some there, I think we're never going to be in a situation to where we have to catch somebody every single game. And I think Eli's certainly good enough to do that. But your first year, you're right, that's extremely difficult to do. But I think he is as prepared as any freshman in the country to go out and compete on a daily basis.
Coach, you already mentioned one of them by name, Luke Alexander, Tanner Poole, two local guys. How have they adapted to big-time D1 baseball? What do you see from them?
Yeah, Luke has been committed to us since he was like 13 years old, I think. So he's a great story. I think Luke is just a baseball player. He's a switch guy who just intuitively understands defense. I think he's somebody that really has bought into Mississippi State baseball. I mean, here's a guy who's been coming and visiting with our players. Again, he's 13, 14, 15 years old. He's on our bench during practices and watching it, taking it all in, preparing for this moment. So in some ways, he's not really even a freshman because he and guys like Hunter Stovall have already experienced Mississippi State baseball, a great deal of it, just from being on our campus. And we encourage the kids that commit to us to come and be around the atmosphere as much as possible so they can prepare for that first year that they're in our program.
And Tanner Poole?
Yeah, Tanner Poole is a very talented athlete. When his level of baseball awareness and instincts get to the level of his athleticism, he's going to be a great player. He might be the fastest kid I've ever coached. At 6'3", 6'4", 195 pounds. He's a legitimate 65, 60 guy, and he can fly. He's got arm strength. He's got some power. He's worked really hard on his swing. At this stage of the game, he will probably, at this stage, be a redshirt on the club just because we feel like we have so much depth in our outfield. I think that helps him. It really adds a year to his career, and I think a year from now he might be, one of the really good players in our program.